I will call this meeting to order of the CCS Bylaws and Policy Committee at 10:05 a.m. Can we get a roll call?
Onell,
Here.
Dodson, Dorfman,
Here.
Kim, Murray,
Here.
Novak,
Here.
Shepherd,
Here.
and as visitor we have Jeannie Dilger Palatine, and CCS we have Rebecca Malinowski, Deborah Wishmeyer, and Beth Stoneburner. And I'll keep an eye out for Kim or for Andy to join us.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda at this time? All right, hearing none, we'll move to public comment. Any public comments? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 26, 2024 board meeting?
I so move.
Any discussion on those minutes or corrections? All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the January 26th meeting? Oh, we need a roll call, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we can have a second, or did I miss that? Sarah. Thank you. Onell,
Aye.
Dodson,
Aye.
Dorfman,
Aye.
Murray,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to move on to the review of selected areas of the bylaws. And Rebecca, here's what I'm thinking. We'll have you review each of the items. And then after we've reviewed everything and had the discussion, then we'll make any motions that need to be made and go from there. Does that sound like a good plan? Yeah.
I am nodding.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I saw you nodding. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And so then do you want to walk us through these items, Rebecca?
Sure. So I sent, it looks like Andy has joined us by phone. So, for the minutes, but thanks, Andy.
Sorry about that, everyone.
So when we last spoke, we talked about updating the IGA to indicate that there could be some contracts signed, at the library level and not entering it into the bylaws and adding a policy saying that CCS will do centralized contracts as a matter of practice. So when I was actually going through to draft everything and like put the words in, I really struggled with where to put it in the IGA. So I did end up putting it in the bylaws instead. And then the other kind of high level thing to say is that we talked about like clarifying the scope of CCS. So in the summary of suggested changes document, I pulled out elements related to the scope. So the IGA says that, you know, we want to cooperate about library automation and library computer services. And then in the bylaws, it said, you know, CCS is going to do technology services, resources, and training as deemed appropriate by membership. But I added in support of the mission and vision established by governing board. I mean, the mission and vision are subject to change with governing board approval. So I don't know that it like really changes the meaning of everything, of anything, but I hope, my goal is that it clarifies like governing board is responsible for setting the direction of CCS, and CCS is responsible for providing the services, technology, resources, et cetera, to support that direction set by governing board. So I did share the communication with the attorney as well, regarding our authority, for this like signing of this question around contracts. And if you read through the exchange, it essentially was like, yeah, you probably already have the authority, like, and he gives a lot of reasons why. That said, I do think that per our last discussion, it is very much subject to interpretation, and another attorney might have another interpretation of the things. So I did add in under responsibilities of member libraries. It said already that the library will conform to the rules and standards set by governing board. And so I add in that may include using specific tools, resources, services, which also may include signing a contract. And he had no concerns about the language that was inserted here. And so that same language is then mirrored in the policies in statement of membership. And then related to that, there's a new policy being proposed for contracts under our administration section of the policies, saying that we may require the use of certain tools, and that we will strive to like have a centralized contract. So that is the sort of authority and contracts questions that we talked about. And then there are some other changes, mostly under governing board for quorum and attendance, removing that governing board member, whenever anybody is participating electronically, all votes shall be by roll call. And to Joe's email earlier today, adding in unexpected childcare under those bullets. So the roll call requirement for OMA is only during a disaster situation where there's no in-person quorum. So I would anticipate committee meetings like this, we'd continue to do roll calls, but at governing board where we're in person and maybe one person is voting or calling in, that we would do voice votes except where required by other policies to do roll call. So let me pause there. Lindsay? Anyone?
All right, Rebecca, thank you for pulling all this together and for your discussions with the attorney. Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca regarding the proposed language changes to the bylaws and the policies?
I don't. I mean, the attorney seems to take the position that your bylaws always trump these IGAs. So I think it's behooves us to change the language of the bylaws, so maybe we can avoid some of the problems we've been having.
I think you did a good job, Rebecca, in adding, the language in a simple way. I read through it all and thought it looked good myself. Brian?
Yep.
I know you raised some initial concerns. How are you feeling?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate the changes that are here in the wording that is here. This actually addresses, I think, the main concerns that I had about this, because I do think it gives clarity to what the authority of CCS is, and I think is really going to be beneficial going forward. So I actually I reviewed all this, and I'm Rebecca, I think you did a great job putting this together and putting this language in the policy.
Frank? Any thoughts, any concerns?
Yeah, I like the language. I have no problems with it at all. I think, Rebecca, thank you for doing that. Of course, this is always about balance, right? I mean, as far as what we do or what CCS does, as a group versus what people think CCS should be doing as a group. So I think you've done the best you can here with this, and there are always going to be disagreements. We may have a product that some people like and some people don't, and then we vote on it. I think that's unavoidable, but the language to me is fine. It looks good. And I get where the attorney is coming from too. I understand. I think it's good to revise the bylaws like has been done here. So thank you, Rebecca.
Sarah or Andy, any thoughts, any concerns?
I'm sorry if I missed it. Is there any change happening to the IGA, or we're just changing the bylaws?
No change to the IGA, bylaws and then policy.
So, and I'm not opposed to it at all. I did read the email from the attorney about there being some conflict between what's in the bylaws and what's in the IGA. And perhaps having a rider to the IGA. I didn't know if that was something we wanted to explore or consider.
Yeah, I'm interested in talking more about that. So that was specifically around who is on governing board.
Mhm.
The IGA says it could be a trustee or the library director, and the bylaws say that it is the library director. It's not been an issue, but I guess I can imagine a situation in which it would become an issue. So I have not obviously drafted that language for a rider. I'm happy to. I don't know if that. I'm happy to do it because he said the bylaws would, take precedence. I didn't stress about it.
I am inclined to agree. I was just thinking, there have been an unfortunate number of cases where a board seems to undermine their director. And so if we don't have clarity in the IGA about who is the representative, even though we say the bylaws say this thing, if there was a bad actor on a board who felt like the board and signed the IGA and the board didn't have any say in what the bylaws were, then perhaps would have a hard time wanting to adhere to the bylaws. So, if it's not difficult to create a rider, I don't know if it's a bad idea to clarify it that way. It's not something I would push hard on, but I just think if we have the suggestion from the attorney, it might be something we want to do.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to it, and I agree with your comments. So I can work on that for the near future.
That's
Right.
all that I have.
And I don't know what the law is, because I know all our IGAs are signed by the board president. I don't sign those. And I don't know if we do that because that's just been our protocol over the years, or if there's really a legal obligation that the board has to sign and not the employee, so to speak. Does anyone know one way or another?
We're not proposing changing that. It's just the language in the IGA that says the board will appoint a governing board representative either from the board or the executive director. So we would still expect that the rider and any future IGA would be approved and signed by the board.
Would be signed by the board. Okay.
My library's bylaws say that the board president signs contracts and IGAs unless delegated to the executive director. So depending on what it is.
All right, because I thought, well, Because I thought the issue was about these bad boards, the bad board situation where they wouldn't sign. Is that what the issue was? You're afraid that the board wouldn't sign something?
I was more concerned that somebody on the board would say, we signed this intergovernmental agreement that says a trustee should represent the library. And so we want our trustee to represent the library instead of the director.
So Rebecca, am I hearing that you are going to put this on a future
Yes, yeah, I will draft it for.
meeting agenda?
Mhm.
And Rebecca, help me with what's next here. So we, do we approve these, changes as a recommendation for the executive board? Or, how do these changes, or governing board, what are our next steps?
Yes, so the bylaws must be approved by governing board. So policy can be approved by executive committee, but since it's tied together, my recommendation is to recommend all of it to governing board. A small little hiccup is that when scheduling this meeting, I did not take into account not all areas of the bylaws, but some of them, including one of the ones that we're changing, require a 45-day review period. So we won't actually be able to vote on this at the May governing board, but we can send it and discuss it and then have it in the consent agenda for July or for August. So I would recommend as an action, recommending the changes as presented to governing board, to both the bylaws and the policy. I think it makes sense to do a single motion because they're tied together. But if that doesn't make sense to anyone else, I'm happy to, obviously we can do more than one. And then I will also just say, I did not get to the new members and new member billing policies. So that is still on my agenda for the next, you didn't miss anything, and we're not recommending those changes at this time, because they do not exist yet.
I wondered about that. I was looking for, I was like, did I miss something
No,
here?
I was like, I'll do it. And then we can even if they're not ready to approve it, we'll have language. And then my childcare was out yesterday. So per Joe's, OMA, comment, unexpected childcare stuff, man.
It happened, huh?
Totally understand. Well, I would be happy to make the motion to approve recommendations to changes to the bylaws and policies as presented. I think that that's clear enough, hopefully, to the governing board.
Sounds good to me. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, who was that second?
You can give it to Joe.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Trying to get my hand up real fast. I'm slowing down in my old age, though.
All right, Deborah, or Beth, can we get a roll call?
Bunnell,
Yes.
Dodson,
Yes.
Dorfman,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
Amy, I'm sorry that I didn't ask your opinion. I didn't see you on there. You weren't pictured there. So
Oh,
I'm
weird.
really sorry that I didn't, I feel like I called everybody out, but I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's totally
That
fine.
it wasn't done intentionally. I just didn't see you on my screen.
That's cool. No problem. No problem.
Sorry. Okay, are we good with that? All right, so then under next steps, what I'm hearing is Rebecca's going to come back with some language on new members and new member billing, and also some information, more information about ensuring that the IGA and the bylaws are in sync when it comes to who is appointed to governing board.
Yes. I have one additional comment and a question. So separately at our recent budget and finance meeting, they are recommending a change to the fiscal accountability policy on my spend limit. Just to be more in line with most library spend mine is $5,000 for unbudgeted. And so, oh God, I don't even remember. Beth, we bump it to 10 or 15? 10?
I think 10.
Yeah. So that's
I was
bumped
working
to
on those
10.
minutes.
Yeah. So that would go directly to executive committee because it was recommended by budget, but I wanted to just pop it here. If there were any concerns, we could delay and add it to a future agenda. So that was my comment that I'm happy to take any questions on. We just can't take action on it today. And then the second is, do you all want to meet again this fiscal to do the rider, et cetera? I'm happy to schedule a meeting in late May, June, or do you want to pass? I mean, hopefully many of you will be on the committee next year, but do you want to wait and meet next year? I'm happy to do either.
So is that for the rider, Rebecca, and new member?
Yeah, the new member billing policy and the rider. Yeah. So again, we can meet after governing board in May, like in May or June, or if you're like, we had enough meetings this year, let's wait. I'm happy to do either.
Does the new billing policy affect these new libraries coming in? I mean, do we have an incentive to get it done?
So it would be so we're looking specifically at the development fund fees and adding in a component of library size to that payment structure for that one-time investment. So it wouldn't change the libraries that are active, or Vernon, who's already received a quote. It would be if another library requested a quote.
Will the chair change, Rebecca?
The chair will change, yes. So no, you'll continue as secretary, so you'll continue as the chair. Right?
I'm
Yes,
asking
yes.
you.
So,
Yes,
I
no,
double
you're
checking
still on
that.
executive committee, so we would still like for you to be the chair unless you are unable to do so.
So my thinking, and this is just, I mean, well, what do you all think? Folks who are on the committee, do you have a preference? Rebecca,
There
I'm sorry,
doesn't
go ahead.
seem to be like a need for it right away, but then again, I don't want anyone to call us lazy, you know?
so my thinking here is just for continuity, and because everybody has been part of these conversations and they understand the background and the context. If we could get it done, I would prefer that instead of bringing a whole new group of folks up to speed. Hopefully it'll just be another short meeting.
Yeah.
That would be my preference. Is anybody opposed to that? No.
Okay, cool. So we'll work on getting a poll out for between after governing board and the end of the fiscal to wrap up these changes. And I'll have new member billing and IGA.
Yeah, and I think the priority there is the new member billing, really.
I agree.
But maybe the IGA as well, because another group isn't going to understand the bet. Well, it's
Yeah.
completely different than this last conversation. So I guess priority member billing is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and it's just like that thing where it lives in my head, but I haven't written it down on paper yet. So, but yes, I have no concerns about completing it. I just wanted to make sure that, I don't know, maybe folks get stressed. All your fiscal years are different. Maybe you're all stressed at the end of the fiscal, but maybe it's not your fiscal.
Rebecca, I'm stressed all the time. So it's just another day. Just another day
All
of
right.
another thing.
All right, well, we'll get that meeting scheduled then.
And I'm never stressed anymore, Rebecca, because after a while, it's like, it just is what it is. So you
Right,
know what?
right,
If it's like,
right.
it
I
always
like
is
that.
stressed, then it's never stressed. It's-
Right, yeah.
Perfect.
Brian's very
I hear you,
zen.
Ann. I hear
Brian's
you.
just gone zen on us now.
I was just gonna say.
It's not, yeah, it's just another, it's just another
Yeah.
thing to look at, right?
I-
And they never, they're always there and they always will be, so.
My goal will just be to have as many meetings with Jeannie between now and the end of the fiscal as possible. So I'm on
We're not gonna
board.
miss Jeannie.
My calendar's completely booked. I'm sorry. It's too late. You think I'm joking?
I don't think you're joking. I'm just
I don't think you're
doing nervous
joking,
laughter on your behalf.
I mean, all of a sudden retirement doesn't look so exciting if that's what it looks like at the end.
Yeah, let me tell you, the last 3 months.
Yeah. So Jeannie, when is your last day?
July 5th.
All right. And when are we
Are you,
having?
are you really going to Spain? Are you really retiring in Spain?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not making it up, not a story.
Wow.
Love it. Are you really doing it, Jeannie?
She's doing it. All right. So really quick, any next steps? Any other next steps? Any other? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Brian, so moved.
I'll second.
Do we need a roll call for that?
I
No.
think you can just call the meeting.
I think you can just declare it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I declare the meeting adjourned.
All right,
Thanks,
everyone, have a great
everyone.
day.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks,
Just a
everybody.
half hour, folks. Thank you so much, everybody.
Everyone.
Fun.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, Rebecca.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca, for everything. Bye.
Bye.